It is 11 at night. You have been in motion since 7 this morning, meetings, messages, small emergencies that felt urgent while they were happening, and if someone asked you right now what you actually did today, what you would point to as the thing that mattered, you would have trouble answering. Seneca had a name for exactly this feeling, and his diagnosis of it is more unsettling than anything a productivity book has told you since. Most complaints about time take the same shape. There is not enough of it. The days are too short, the years go by too fast. If only there were more hours we could find. In Rome roughly 2,000 years ago, rejected that complaint outright. Not because he thought people were wrong to feel it, because he thought they had misdiagnosed the cause, and had been misdiagnosing it for as long as anyone had been complaining. This is his actual argument, why it is not a dressed-up version of Seize the Day, and why the specific failure he described in the 1st century looks, without much translation, like an ordinary Tuesday. Start with the shape of a busy life you already recognize. A full calendar. Messages answered within minutes of arriving. A running sense of being needed, of being the person other people wait on before they can move. At the end of a day built this way, there is often a strange flatness where satisfaction should be. You were occupied every hour. You cannot honestly say you were idle. And yet something is missing, and the missing thing is hard to name, because nothing about the day looks, on paper, like waste. Every hour has a meeting attached to it, or a message, or a task that someone else was waiting on. The usual response to that flatness is to manage the calendar better. Tighter scheduling. Fewer distractions. A cleaner system for the inbox. A sharper method for the to-do list. All of this can genuinely help you do more within a day, and almost none of it touches the actual complaint, because the complaint was never really about quantity. You can execute a day with total efficiency, clear every task, answer every message, and still reach 11 at night with the same flatness waiting for you at the door, because efficiency was answering a question Seneca did not think was the real one. Lucius Seneca was a Roman statesman and writer, tutor, and later advisor to the Emperor Nero. Around the year 49, he wrote a short treatise to a man named Paulinus, a work we now call De Brevitate Vitae, on the shortness of life. And in its opening lines, he states a position that is not quite the position the title seems to promise. It is not that we have a short space of time, he writes, in John Barsori's translation, but that we waste much of it. Life, in his account, is not stingy by nature. Life is long enough, and it has been given in sufficiently generous measure to allow the accomplishment of the very greatest things if the whole of it is well invested. The trouble is what happens instead. When it is squandered in luxury and carelessness, when it is devoted to no good end, he continues, forced at last by the ultimate necessity we perceive that it has passed away before we were aware that it was passing. His conclusion is stated as plainly as a diagnosis can be stated. The life we receive is not short, but we make it so, nor do we have any lack of it, but are wasteful of it. He does not leave the accusation vague. He goes looking for the specific ways a life gets spent without being lived, and the list reads like a description of people you already know, possibly including yourself on certain days. One man is possessed by an avarice that is insatiable, he writes, another by a toilsome devotion to tasks that are useless. One man is besotted with wine, another is paralyzed by sloth. Different vehicles, in his account, all arriving at the same destination by different roads. What that failure produces, remainder. The part of life we really live is small, he writes, for all the rest of existence is not life, but merely time. Not life. Merely time, passing through you on its way to somewhere else, spent on obligations that were never fully yours to begin with. No one asserts his claim to himself, he writes. Everyone is wasted for the sake of another. And the sentence that follows tends to land hardest on a person who has just finished a demanding, well-executed, entire self, to give ear to yourself. There is a second failure Seneca describes, distinct from busyness but closely tangled up with it, and this one concerns the future rather than the present. You live as if you were destined to live forever, he writes. No thought of your frailty ever enters your head, of how much time has already gone by you take no heed. He had apparently heard a particular kind of promise often enough to record it precisely. You will hear many men saying, after my 50th year I shall retire into leisure, my 60th year shall release me from public duties. His response to that promise is not gentle. What foolish forgetfulness of mortality, he writes, to postpone wholesome plans to the 50th and 60th year, and to intend to begin life at a point to which few have attained. Notice what these two failures actually share. The busy person and the person postponing real life to 60 are not opposites, one careless and one merely patient. They are the same person at two different moments, because the busyness is precisely what makes the postponement feel. It is easy to believe the occupation is temporary, a phase before the real living starts, rather than the thing quietly and permanently replacing it. It would be a comfortable thought to treat all of this as an ancient complaint that modern life has simply outgrown. The evidence points the other way. In 2017, in the Journal of Consumer Research, the researchers Sylvia Beleza, Neeru Paharia, and Anat Kainan published a study on how business now functions as a social signal. Their finding was that a busy, overworked what they called an aspirational status symbol. Being visibly out of leisure time, in the pattern they documented, leads other people to infer that you possess desired human capital characteristics, competence, and ambition among them, and that you are scarce and in demand in the job market. Read that finding against Seneca's own list, the insatiable avarice, the toilsome devotion to useless tasks, the ambition that hangs on someone else's decision, and the picture sharpens considerably. The busyness he was describing as waste is not something given the chance. In the pattern this research documents, busyness is actively rewarded. It signals status. It performs importance to an audience that is, in its own way, keeping score. The incentive Seneca was arguing against is not a bug in how people happen to manage their days. It is functioning exactly as designed, and it has been functioning that way for a great deal longer than any of us have been alive to notice it. Seneca does not leave the diagnosis without a countermeasure. In the first of his surviving instruction that reads less like advice and more like an order given to someone he actually cares about. Set yourself free for your own sake, he writes, in Richard Gummer's translation. Gather and save your time, which till lately has been forced from you, or filched away, or has merely slipped from your hands. He is precise about how the loss actually happens, because he wants no romance left in it. Certain moments are torn from us, that some are gently removed, and that others glide beyond our reach. The most disgraceful kind of loss, however, is that due to carelessness. And then the claim underneath all of it, offered as a fact about ownership rather than a piece of encouragement. Nothing, Lucilius, is ours, except time. We were entrusted by nature with the ownership of this single thing, so fleeting and slippery that anyone who will can oust us from possession. Everything else you might call yours, your position, your calendar, the demands other people place on you, can be taken, given away, or simply lost and later replaced. Time is the one thing that was actually issued to you personally, and it is also the one thing everyone around you, and every incentive built into a status-conscious world, will try to take a piece of, usually with your own quiet cooperation. While we are postponing, he writes, life speeds by. So the question worth sitting with tonight is not really whether you are busy. Almost everyone is busy. The question is closer to the one Seneca kept circling back to across an entire short book. On an ordinary day, in the hours that were actually yours to spend, whose claim on your time did you honor, and did you, at any point between morning and 11 at night, give ear to yourself? There is one more detail about that little treatise worth knowing before you go. Seneca addressed on the shortness of life to Paulinus, quite possibly his own father-in-law, a man who at the time held one of the most demanding administrative posts anywhere in the Roman world, the official responsible for overseeing the grain supply that fed the entire city of Rome. Seneca was not lecturing some idle aristocrat about the dangers of having too little to do. He aimed the whole argument at a man whose days were, by any measure available to the first century, completely and legitimately full, because that was exactly the person who most needed to hear that a full day and a lived life are not automatically the same thing. If you have a moment before you close this, the question worth leaving in the comments is a simple one. What is the thing you have told yourself you will finally get to once you reach some future point, retirement, the end of this project, a quieter year, and what would it actually take to bring one piece of it into an ordinary evening this week, rather than the one after that, and the one after that? The next video follows this same tradition into a different trap, one built entirely out of measuring your one life against everyone else's, and why the ancients suspected that particular measurement was rigged from the start.